And Sanchez Ruiz has won the lag and will get us off and running here. He'll feel he has a point to prove, Jeremy, after that surprise defeat earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, he's been in this situation before, but he knows a long road to hoe to get to that final 16. But it definitely starts here with his first match on the one-loss side.
Yeah, and the reason you refer to the last 16 is because that's when we go to single elimination. There'll be 8 players who will come directly through from the winner's side, and the other 8 from the one loss. We'll be down to that last 16 stage by the end of Friday.
Yeah, I'm not sure he can get at this 2-ball. It looks like the 7 may have a little eclipse, and he's taking something off the back end of his cue, so maybe a little swerve shot. A lot of times when the players are swerving the ball just slightly, they'll take the weight off the back end of the cue. I think he's given up a little look at the blue 2, but maybe not.
Ashik Nathawani then of India was beaten earlier by Giuseppe Iacobucci of Italy by 9 racks to 3. And he knows he's a big outsider in this match.
Yeah, but he's got to look at Ruiz as just the same as him, a guy that's lost his first match, and just try to take advantage of what opportunities he gets. Ruiz is a guy that can really get steam rolling you, and he's probably a little steamed up after his first loss, so I wouldn't doubt he put some racks together here in this one-loss side match.
Just half of the matches in this first round on the one-loss side are being played this evening. The other half will be tomorrow. And I think Ruiz will be pleased to be involved in this evening's play rather than having to go away and dwell on his defeat earlier overnight.
Yeah, we're not sure, you know, how it went down in that one loss. I mean, there are some players that, you know, the balls are breaking nice. Players can put some racks together. Tyler Steyer, I talked to him earlier, he took a loss where his opponent grabbed the lead or tied him at 4 apiece and then ran 4 racks to the hill before eventually winning that match. And so it doesn't take much for some of these underdogs to get the ball rolling.
Huge Q Sports tradition in India, particularly the game of billiards, where they've had some of the all-time greats. And indeed, it was in India that snooker was invented back in the 19th century. Not a massive pedigree on the pool front as of yet.
No, and I think, you know, you can look at it, it's just a numbers game. If India really gets involved in the pool just like any other sport, having 1.6 billion people or whatever it is, somewhat like China, you know they're going to be, you know, part of the mix, that's for sure.
Well, that's it. I mean, if even 0.5% of the population of India starts playing pool, or even 0.25%, that's still a huge number of people.
And it's funny how it works, and I'm sure it's the same everywhere, you just don't see it as much, or maybe coming from America, we've had great players for a long time, but a lot of these countries just need a player to do really well before it really sparks, you know, and that spark can run hot quickly.
Well, you look in Germany with someone like Ralf Souquet, who blazed the trail, and look at all the wonderful German players who've followed since then. It's just one example.
Yeah, Oliver Ortmann and several world champions.
Torsten Homan, Joshua Filler, of course, at the moment.
That's right. So a little bit of a scrappy opening rack here with all the balls congested on that left side rail to open the rack. But a cross side bank that Ruiz expected to make.
Does the mentality change, Jeremy, when you're on the one-loss side?
Probably not. I mean, Ruiz is a pretty savvy vet that even at a young age of probably, I think he's 30 now, but 31 maybe, but
turned 30 Christmas time.
Yeah, so I don't think so. I think he knows it's a grind factor, so he's not going to change much. He's just going to tend to business. He's going to try and get some quality out of this match. Huge favorite, but that's kind of especially on the one-loss side, where you can maybe pick apart a few of the things that went wrong in his first match, try and remedy those situations and play a better match here in round 2. But Ashik is doing what he's supposed to do, make Ruiz come with it early, apply some pressure. And he's been very good with the one-ball safeties, kind of ball out in the middle of the table. It's very difficult to control both the object ball and the cue ball. And we'll see if Ruiz wants to jump at this 3. Oh, excuse me, that was Ruiz that played the safety. Have one eye on Sky Woodward here. Matchroom with such a great setup. So it'll be Nathwani to the air here. Trying to bank the 3 down by the 6, bringing the cue ball back behind the 8. I assume anyways. This wouldn't be the most terrible kick shot, one rail between the 9-7, coming right off this middle diamond on the bottom of your screen. Going at the 3, and the reason being is the 5's a difficult ball to get position on or play a combination. So unless you're real confident with the jump here, I may have to go for the kick shot. Now here you wouldn't want to kick to the top rail as often as you would the bottom. This looks more obvious, but you're kind of bringing the 3 and the cue ball down here together and near the 5. I'd rather kick the other way myself. Oh, he's missed it entirely, so you may have a little regret not jumping at it.
Well, as I said, he knows he's a big underdog in this match, so what he really needs to do is put some pressure on Sanchez Ruiz early on, show him he's in a match. And this has developed into the sort of rack that could have gone either way, but maybe he's now handed the initiative away and missed the boat in that regard.
And you're going to see Ruiz, I don't know if he draws right at the 6 with the cue ball, comes between the 4 and the rail with the cue ball. It looks like now he's just going to draw directly behind the 5. And Skylar's still struggling a little bit with the timing over there. He's got a 6-2 lead now, but one thing I was thinking about Ruiz from the first match, if there were some early games he gave away or made a mistake in that first match that led to that loss, you may see him take a little bit more time than normal.
Yeah, it tends to play quite swiftly. That's something to keep an eye on.
A really talented player.
Compare this to some of the matches we've seen on the main table today, Jeremy, and some of the others. It was 3 or 4-0 after this amount of time.
Yeah, it looks like if he's coming to the back cushion, he's got to elevate the cue a little bit and swerve the ball. Often see this spin not take, and the guys entirely miss the kick. He got a piece of it. Well, we'll see. He's going to give up a difficult little shot in the side, but very natural position. Missed his mark in many ways there, not only missing the 4, but he hit it thick and still overran on the 6, so that tells you he's bit off.
Yeah, a few early signs of tension, anxiety. You can even see it in his body language there as he sits down.
Yeah, normally when you hit it thick, the cue ball actually doesn't travel as much, right? So quite a bit off on that 5 ball. I don't think Nathwani can do a whole lot with the cue balls. Definitely going into the 8. Just keep it simple, draw into the 8 and take your shot on the 6. Oh, he got by the 8. That's going to hurt a bit. And a lot of times players don't realize on the slick felt how easy it draws. Something that does get away from the players if you're not used to it.
Adam Collins, the British player, has closed to 6-3 down now against Skylar Woodward on the other featured table. You can watch the matches from there over on the Matchroom YouTube.
Watch for the scratch if he goes for this up in the corner. Oh, he hit it pretty sweet, actually. Really got kind of ideal position from where he was.
Well, absolutely, could not have done any better. And this is a big chance now. As I said, he's got to try and put his far more experienced opponent under early pressure. Add to the anxiety that the Spaniard does seem to be feeling.
It's going to run on top of the 8. Needs to get past the 8 a bit, or this is going to be very awkward. Not only pocketing the 8, but gaining position as well. He could bank it. Doesn't really lead for shape too much, but maybe plays this thin in the side and goes 3 rails, maybe. Could put the 8 below the 9 somewhat and leave the cue ball up on the top of the table.
I'll tell you what, Jeremy, whoever ends up losing this rack is going to have a lot of regrets about it now, because they've both had several chances.
And this is the difference early in the tournament, no shot clock. Looks like he's trying to play the safety, but it doesn't appear you can really get the cue ball behind the 9 and the 8 in a safe position. I think it would have to be the 8 underneath the 9 more of, and just try and play a good speed control. And he's cueing on the left side of the 8, and I just don't see it. And he's always going to leave a shot here. Nothing easy for Ruiz, but Ruiz is not only a great player with the cue ball, but he is one heck of a shot maker usually. Now, some players would consider, if he would have froze the cue ball on the rail, Ruiz would probably play across corner bank. But now that he can get to the bottom of the cue ball, he'll definitely attack coming across the table for the 9 in the lower right. We'll get you some updates. Shane Wolford in a long match up there. And that's 2 misses now.
Yeah, Wolford up against the Dutch player, Gies van Westenbrugge. That's 4-all.
And these 4 1/4 right now, they're playing a little generous early, but still, if you're playing with some speed, the ball can certainly wobble, and this is too much speed, so he's going to get awkward again. Makeable, but awkward.
Well, we've seen some wonderful quality on this opening day. And this rack has more closely resembled something you might see down your local pool hall. All sorts of mistakes, chances missed.
Oh, that was way thick. Without even seeing the line, I could, it's quite a ways away from the table, I could tell immediately, and no picnic here for Ruiz. He's got to turn the cue ball loose a little bit. Should go after this, though. Sometimes when your nerves are going, you just don't, I think he hit the ball actually where he wanted, just you don't see straight, let's say, or quite as well as you normally do when the nerves are high. Really, you'd kind of feel, though, maybe the nerves shaking off with these guys each on the one-loss side. I think he's supposed to shoot at this. Otherwise, he'll lag the 9-2 rails down to the bottom rail, but he can't really keep the cue ball on the rail, any of that. So I think Ruiz is supposed to try and bury this one.
And you don't have the shot clock. Is there a danger of maybe getting too much into your own head, overthinking it, as Sanchez Ruiz maybe is doing here?
Well, after an early loss and then 2 pretty easy misses. I mean, not the 8 wasn't easy, but 1 you expect him to make. Now he's cueing downward, so he's spinning this, trying to play it with a soft speed just in case. But definitely played quality pool in Gibraltar. Of course, didn't do as well as he wanted, but still played very well.
Yeah, quarterfinals at the World Masters. Skylar Woodward on the hill now. He's gone 8-3 against Adam Collins.
And has looked a little better the last 2 racks. Got to go for this. Stay still through the shot. Decent effort.
Yeah, but it looks as though it's going to be his last contribution to this opening rack. With everything we've seen, we certainly won't be marking this one down just yet. But even with everything that's gone before, Sanchez Ruiz would surely be backed all day long to make this.
Yeah, a little high ball here. A little closer, he probably wraps the corner with the cue ball here, but from this distance, I like a high ball. Well, he's overcut that by some mark, and wow, that didn't really even threaten the pocket. So Ruiz is going to have to regroup here early, even though he's a big favorite.
Well, everything we saw in that shot looked all wrong. He didn't look comfortable at all. Seems really edgy. So is this rack finally going to end? Well, having had so many chances to inflict some early damage on Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, it was vital that Ashik Nathawani did get that opening rack on the board. And eventually he has done. So he leads 1-0. Let's hope that doesn't set the tone for the match, Jeremy, because that was tough watching at times.
And something you don't see from Ruiz very often. I mean, he's always playing the best players in the world, so it's hard to always win, but usually very solid.
Looks like Woodward is going to race through that last rack against Adam Collins. No time at all. He's got a simple 9 now, and he's got the job done. Collins stayed pretty close to him early on, but in the end, 9-3 for Skylar Woodward.
All right, our first look at a break from Nathwani. Pretty well struck, dressing the 1 up over the corner. Looks like the cue ball's going to agree. And he's got a chance to do a little damage here. I think the 2 does play on the side. He's going to have to kind of float the 1 in with a little bit of spin. Shouldn't be a problem, though.
Mateusz Sniegocki is on the hill. The pole leads Federico Maria Pellicciotti 8-7. Niels Johannin of Germany flying along 7-0 up against the Scot James Jack. And it's gone hill-hill between Stephen Ellis and Vincent Gomez.
Yeah, this is thin in the side, but he can play it really how he wants with the 4 near. Don't want to play it with a ton of speed from this angle, obviously, but that'll show you about the diamond table and those side pockets. At that speed, it just feathered that inner point and then hung up. And Ruiz is going to get started with an easy one, and maybe something he needed maybe a little bit of.
Well, quite definitely. He was struggling so much with what would normally be routine shots for him in the opening rack. So he needs something relatively straightforward. Just got to settle into the match.
Okay, he's gotten a little bit on the bad side of the 5, but still it should be easy. He can play the 7. I don't know about in the side, but it definitely goes to both corners. He just wants to get tidy position on the 6. Doesn't want to get too thin here, though. Yeah, and kind of shot the 5 like, oh, let me just roam across the table here. Now, I wouldn't say it's gotten a missable ball, but just got to be concerned with position.
Yeah, he did look to be in a bit of a hurry to get this rack taken care of.
We'll talk about it all the time, and this isn't in a bad manner by any means. Oh boy. But right there, a little let up on the swing, and that's part of it. When you have a faster tempo with your technique a little bit, and his isn't bad by any means, not one of the fastest ones, but easy to be off, especially if you're struggling a little bit. Now he's got to go to the short cue, and he's a big underdog here. He'll get over this most likely, but still tough to manage the make on the 7. Meanwhile, he just split the wicket.
Well, that's going to make him feel a lot better. He executed that very well. In a couple of shots time, he might get that first rack on the board.
And he's got to pay attention to this 8, Michael. It's a little flat. It's the kind, if you want to pound it out, you could certainly overcut it. Okay, he didn't move the cue ball much at all. Really kind of interesting the way he played it. He's close to it, so edge on edge here. Shouldn't be too tough, but certainly isn't straight in.
Well, not in at all. And what a chance now for Nathwani.
And I don't think he really made a clear-cut decision on the 8 is what I feel. I mean, I think that was a missable 9 ball. You saw how much he had to cut it.
Well, we were expecting a big reaction from Francisco Sanchez Ruiz to his defeat earlier today by Jason Theron, but so far we're getting anything but that. He's really struggling. Really should have won both of the first 2 racks. Instead, he's lost them both. Ashik Nathawani leads 2-0. So let's see what's happening elsewhere. Mark Maggi of Estonia, 7-5 up against the British player Jake Newlove. James Jack has averted the whitewash. He's taken the 8th rack, trails 7-1 now against Niels Johanning. I told you Mateusz Sniagotsky was on the hill. Well, he's still there. It's 8-all now against Federico Maria Pellicciotti. Konrad Jusicin, Polish player, 5-2 lead over Panos Rulias.
He's broke the balls nice as far as the tracking the 1, if he can keep the cue ball in line. Nathwani can put a rack or 2 together here. It'd be a lot of pressure on Ruiz. She is a pressure player, but more of like down towards the end of the tournament, Michael, not at the beginning.
In a race to 9, 2-0. Isn't that significant a lead, but of course it gives you the chance to move very swiftly to something more like 3-0, 4-0, and once you get into that territory, you can, as you say, really put the frighteners up. A much more experienced opponent.
Well, that was a confident stroke. I was going to say, really needs to ease that ball to be able to stay on the right side of the 2, and he may have fallen straight in. He's straight in the side. He has to probably take this in the corner and come across. but a pretty confident stroke going back and forth on that one. He does have the corner. And another confident stroke. So a couple nice shots here to open rack number 3. And if he gets out here again, I like the way he's breaking the balls so far.
Well, it's one thing to win the first 2 racks by picking up off his opponent's mistakes. But to win one by running out from the break, well, that would really send a message. So big moments, these.
And he got right in the funny zone, even though it's an easy shot, but moving the cue ball for the 5. He goes 1 rail, he's got to really avoid the 7. 2 rails speed has got to be perfect. And he avoided that 7, so that was a nice shot. It was a lot, not difficult, but something you could easily let slip away. On your club table, that's a very routine shot. You just kind of check it with English coming up the table, but that's not the case here at the UK Open.
So it looks pretty inevitable now. We're going to see our first break and run. The racking device delicately removed by Nathwani.
Yeah, I like him regrouping right there. Under hit that 6, getting to the 7 a bit. Doesn't want to. He can't really afford any easy mistakes. We kind of feel like Ruiz may be able to afford 1 or 2, but we've seen him already.
Well, I think even at 3-0 down, you'd probably still make Sanchez Ruiz favourite to win this match. He's going to have to start playing a lot better, though. But there wasn't anything he could do about that one. Nathwani running out from the break, and he now leads 3-0. Could be a really big story developing here. And another Indian player is in action over on the other featured table, Natasha Chetan. This is also in the loser side of things. So she's up against Canada's Terence Gulliver there in the first rack.
Don't really know Terence. Not sure what part of Canada he's from, but good to see some more North American players here. John Mora, of course, the obvious top player here from Canada.
Any merit at all, do you think, in considering the possibility of expanding the Mosconi Cup team, make it Europe versus North America, just bring a couple more players into the fold? Is that something that could happen if Europe continued to dominate things?
Don't think so. I mean, the talent in America is there. We just have to corral it in better ways, and I don't think it's really necessary, to be honest with you, but I guess you never know.
And what do you think at this stage about your US team later in the year? Are there going to be new faces in there, or do you think it's going to be more or less the lineup we're familiar with?
Well, I think every year that with what's going on in pool, we have a better chance of new faces. I think it's necessary at some time for America to bring those new faces into that situation in all these tournaments. So I wouldn't doubt it, Michael, that we see one. You never know, maybe 2. But we also have some others that are kind of starting to try and play more pool. Some guys that have made the Mosconi before. So it'll be interesting as it really comes and unfolds as the year goes on.
But whatever the lineup turns out to be, you're going to need the likes of Shane and Skylar to be the real heavy hitters that week, because they are the players you'll mostly be looking to get the points on the board. And if America are to win the cup back, those two are going to have a good week.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you talk about the Mosconi, no matter what team, which side it's on. If you have, you know, 3 guys that play really, really solid, of course, with a little fortune like you always need in the Mosconi Cup, but you can really just have a couple guys really kind of chip in here and there. And, you know, that's not what we're trying to design, but yeah, Skylar and Shane. Shane's obvious. It looks like he'll make the team, or at what he's done already. You would figure Skylar to make the team, but yeah, those two have to show up come early December in Vegas.
It's funny, it doesn't feel like that long since we were at Alexandra Palace for Europe's win over you guys, but here we are now. I mean, it's only 6 months to the next one, so it comes around fast, and the narrative of who's going to be in both teams will be such a big part of the pool scene over the coming months. Anyway, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz left the arena. Probably needed to regroup a bit, but he's back in it now. He needs to start turning things around. 3-0 down.
Some tough questions in the last match of our day here, Michael.
Yeah, I like to make you earn your money, Jeremy.
That's right.
Had a lot of one-sided matches today.
I'm impressed with this young lady's stroke over here on table number 2. Obviously a young player, but pretty incredible getting to play in these events, get some experience. And another great opening starter, putting that one over the corner. This could get old quickly for Ruiz. Can't ask for much more. He's got to work it a little bit. He's got to go up and down the table these first few shots. Doesn't have to come back down too far for the 2, but from the 3 to the 5, from the 6 to the 7, back for the 8. So it's amazing how the random of the rack, you'll see that sometimes, and then sometimes they just kind of connect, you know, together. A little light with the stroke there. Sorry, Michael.
I was just going to say, Sanchez Ruiz obviously entitled to take a comfort break, as they call them, in between racks, but I wonder if part of his intention was just to halt Nathwani's growing momentum there. He just had the run out from the break. He was obviously itching to get back to the table and pick up from there, but was made to wait a few minutes. If it was the intention, it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, a little gamesmanship. I was on the road with some Hall of Famers, and they'd tell me little things. It's not anything personal from player to player, but, you know, when someone makes a big mistake, you know, sometimes you can put them on the cooker a little bit with your timeout, and timeouts are there to be used. I know I get awfully upset when I watch American football or something like that, and they end the game with all their timeouts or 2 of them. Doesn't seem like the coach is doing their job. All right, funny shot here. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to get the position he wants. It may run just enough. It's a little light. And all that result is from really kind of a weak draw stroke on the 1. Had him to where he really had to make a nice shot queuing over the 3 ball to pocket the 2, and just didn't get the position he wanted to get back on this 4, or excuse me, on the 5. I don't know. I may have to kick this one with some speed, trying to create some luck. You could try to kick and put the 5 on the back cushion, but that's so tough. Speed control. Well, pretty good considering, especially with his opponent struggling.
James Jack, the Scottish player, battling back well, was 7-0 down against Niels Johanning. He's pulled it back to 7-3. Shane Wolford with a 6-4 lead over Gies van Westenbrugge. Konrad Jusicin going well, the Polish player, 6-2 in front now against Panos Rulias.
I guess Ruiz is looking at cutting the 4 and kind of going into the 8 with the cue ball, maybe. Excuse me, cutting the 5. The purple still gets me occasionally, Michael.
Well, we've a long week ahead here. Should be well accustomed to it by Sunday night.
I actually love the blacks. That's when I do get to play at home. That's the set I prefer. Oh, he played the bank. Beauty.
Well, it's his compatriot David Al-Qaedi who's so famously associated with the length of the table bank after clinching the World Masters with a shot like that back in 2019. Sanchez Ruiz would just love to clinch a rack right now. It's been a rotten start to the match for him.
That's going to fall. It's going to bump to 7, so we'll see. This could get really tricky. And it appears it has.
And this is what keeps happening, isn't it? Every time it looks as though he's got a clear run to the line and a rack, something goes wrong, and that certainly is not what he intended.
He may not even go for the make here. He may go and play safe just because does he really want to roll forward and possibly miss an easy, you know, or leave an easy 8 ball for his opponent? Could come off about half of this. I don't like that. Could come off about half of this with a lot of right spin going to the left side rail and then up behind the 8. Not too difficult of a shot. A bit touchy, but could go 2 rails chopping the 7 a little bit. I kind of like just dragging it up the table 1 rail behind the 8 myself. Now he's sizing up. Do I stay offensive? What he was looking at elevating the cue is really like a masse shot. That's what he's going to do. You saw him take the extension off. So that's usually trying to eliminate the weight. Well, now he's sizing up the safety. I don't like this shot myself.
Well, I don't think he likes it much either. He's looked at it a number of times and keeps going back to it.
He's going to thin this, trying to hit both side rails and just dropping the cue ball behind the 8. The 7 should come up the left side rail a bit. Looks to be decent. He's not going to get the snooker, though. And the worst part about it is every time you play that shot, it's all about the speed of the cue ball laying on the rail. That way, if you do leave a shot, pretty hard for your opponent to gain shape.
Oh, what a fine shot this is. And he knew there was a big premium on that. Playing it at that pace, if he missed it, anything at all could have happened. But he knew if he played it well, it was probably going to be 4-0.
He's kind of stunned this a little on top of the 9. He's going to be stretched. It is playable, though.
Sanchez Ruiz in the background, looking very downcast. Set at 3-0 down. He'd probably still make him favourite. Not so sure now. Ashik Nathawani, remarkably, now leads by 4 racks to 0 against Francisco Sanchez Ruiz of Spain. One of the big favourites to go very far in this event. Could well be heading out on the opening day. Shane Wolford on the hill now, 8-4 he leads against Van Westenberger. I know you rate Wolford very highly, JJ.
Yeah, he's of course a youngster coming up and really got all the tools, and you know, he's got to improve, of course, playing all these tournaments. That's what he's here to do. Of course, he's trying to win as well, and he's just a great mentality, I think, for the sport. Appreciates what he's getting to do here and soaking it all up.
Sander Kont beaten in a close finish earlier today, the Estonian, but off to a good start against Alec Cameron, 3-0 up. Craig Bauer, who will be playing for South Africa in the World Cup, alongside Jason Theron, who beat Sanchez Ruiz earlier today. And he leads Danny Orme 3-2. Konrad Usagen 7-3 against Panos Rulias.
Yeah, and have they picked the Polish team yet for the World Cup? I'm sure they have, and what a hard decision that must be.
Well, so many Polish players around now, and I think we were talking about this at the World Championship, weren't we, that they just need someone to really break through, win a big event, win something like this. Well, Mieszko Fortunski is going to be on the team, and Wojciech Szewczyk as well. But even as you say those two names, you think of maybe 2 or 3 others who could also have been in there.
Yeah, and kind of figured that Fortunski would be there, and I thought he was going to break through last week, and then I believe it was it Al Yusuf that beat him, I think, in the quarterfinals or the semifinals, excuse me.
The World Masters.
Yeah, the Whirlpool Masters.
It was Lowe that beat.
Oh, it was Lowe that beat him. Lowe Ho-Sum, that's right.
And Fortunski, a player who just seems to keep getting a little bit better all the time. Of course, if you keep doing that, eventually one of these titles may well fall your way. A promising start to this rack for the man from India.
Yeah, and he got a nice kiss on the cue ball. It was going to scratch in the upper corner, but he keeps putting the one over that corner. So I'll tell you, puts a rack together here that is very doable. Ruiz, he's going to wonder when he gets another opportunity to try and make amends of quite a few mistakes here early.
Well, it's been a day of mostly very one-sided matches on this main table on the opening day of the UK Open. If someone had told you at the start of this match that it would be another one, well, I think you just would have assumed it would be FSR who'd be going through. He's going completely against the script.
Yeah, touchy little shot here. He's got to play on one side or the other of the 8. He's got to make that decision and make it very clearly. Looks like the speed is perfect. He hasn't gone too far because he wants to hold on the 5 to get back to the 6. This is like ball in hand, I believe. Really nice position. And Fortunski, I think, has been, in my opinion, I played him a couple times, and just one of the most naturally gifted players, just really effortless with the swing, and I think he's getting his mental game in shape to where you're going to see a big win from that young man soon.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there. That was what was missing, perhaps, was the mental strength. Of course, that improves as you do well in big events, as he did at the World Masters.
Well, I think he's conscious of it, too. He could get a little heated before, you know, and cost himself a game or two. And at this level, that's just so detrimental, and just can't afford it. You may get away with it every now and again, but these guys are looking to beat you. You certainly can't beat yourself.
Well, we were talking about prospective newcomers on the American Mosconi Cup team. Fortunski definitely is someone who you could see making the European side. If not this year, then over the next couple of stagings. Meanwhile, back here, Ashik Nathawani is still in dreamland. He's just a few balls away from his second break and run of the match, and an astonishing 5-0 lead.
Yeah, make a real decision here. Don't just get down and let it wander. You get up on top of the ball when that happens a lot of times. This is overhit a little bit. So he's going to land near the cushion, and he's got to watch out for a scratch in the corner. So this has gotten tricky kind of from nowhere, Michael.
Yeah, and you feel these could be very big moments. If he misses this big chance to go 5-0 here, could change the whole dynamic of the contest.
Yeah, he may have to elevate the cue here, and not only makes making this ball 3 times tougher, but also holding position for the 9. That could get away from you easily.
So probably the most significant shot of the match so far.
Oh, I think this is a mistake, leveling out. I don't know if he can avoid the scratch. Oh my, he did.
Just about, living very dangerously there. But this rack is as good as over now. Nobody would have seen this coming. And as he builds this lead further and further, he looks to be increasingly warming to the task. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has got it all to do here. He's 5-0 down.
And I'll tell you, as far as we've seen a lot of racks run today, but the man from India, I think, is putting the 1 in position as well as anyone we've seen here on this table. So he's making the wing ball. You wouldn't say it's a Shane Van Boening speed on the break, but you know, he's not powder puffing them either. He's putting a little bit into the rack, really controlling the 1, and I tell you, he's probably going to have a good chance to maybe clear the next rack too. We'll see, but Ruiz is on the cooker right now, Michael.
Well, Nathwani will know, of course, at 5-0 he's still got a lot of work to do, but he's getting pretty close to the stage where it would take an almighty comeback from Sanchez Ruiz. It's 5-0 now. If that becomes, say, 7-0, then suddenly Nathwani knows he should finish the job.
Well, it's not deserving. I mean, he's definitely played the better racks here early in this match, even though he is to the halfway point. Put a little cut on that. Watch out for the cue ball, but he's really putting the 1. It went in that time, but look at the dress up on the 2. Wow.
Really good signs from a mental point of view, because early on in the match, I think they were dragging each other down a bit, but as much as we were talking about Sanchez Ruiz looking anxious, Nathwani showed signs of nerves as well. But now the whole dynamic of the match has changed for him to the extent that he's probably favourite to win it at this stage. He looks completely comfortable with it, and he's playing better now than he was early on.
And it seems pocketing the ball is his strengths, so he needs to not let anything easy get by, right? No unforced errors here. And that's nice, and a good calm stroke. He's perfect on the 4 to play the 7 up in the corner. He could draw back for the side. I kind of like the corner myself with the 8 so easy over the other side pocket. And Ruiz, the way he's been playing, you know, he's had a pretty darn good year so far. You would fancy a few to place a wager that he may win this event, and now really in trouble.
Well, he's in that category of players who could really make a big step forward if they were to win a big event like this, a televised tournament with a big field, everybody here.
Well, what has he won? 2 Euro events this year already. He won the Derby City Classic Nineball, which is a big event in America.
Yeah, he won that right at the start of the year. Had a brilliant run on the Euro Tour last year.
Oh, was it last year?
Yeah, won a couple of events and almost actually won 3 in a row. And I think he did well in all of the Euro Tour events that were played in 2021. Did well in a 10-ball event in Arizona at the start of the year as well.
And these are huge points for a Mosconi Cup that he desperately wants to make as well. And what you think is huge points going by the wayside.
Well, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. 3 balls down off the break. Nathwani saw it out from there, and that, incredibly, is 6-0.
And I believe with 3 breaking runs.
You believe correctly. Yeah, and I mean, Sanchez Ruiz had a very good 2021, all right. Last 16 of the World Championship and the US Open, in addition to those Euro Tour successes we were talking about. You've got to say now it would be a big surprise if he won the match.
Yeah, and I have to agree. I mean, breaks the balls great. He runs a lot of racks a lot of times in these situations, these types of events. But, you know, once you make a few mistakes, it seems like you get punished, and then his opponent is prepared to punish him. So, and watch the 1 ball. I'll tell you, he's been really tracking the 1 ball towards that upper left-hand corner. You got a kick on the cue ball again, but look at the 1 near. And this is going to get old quickly for FSR.
Mental challenge obviously needs to be overcome as he gets towards the winning line. It will be a huge moment in his career to win against such a leading player at a big event like this on the main table. And that's when it's important just to remember what got him here in the first place and how well he's played as the match has gone on.
He just needs to keep it simple. Yeah, I was wondering if he would try to go 2 rails there. He may get fortunate. This is going to get a little funny. Thought he may take a little bit of a longer shot on the 2 right there rather than coming across the 8, but it was you and I talking about it earlier in another match. You know, for these underdogs, it does require usually a little help from their opponent at the beginning, but the way the tables are breaking, you know, the balls are going down, they're getting shots. If they can remain calm, they can get some things done.
Shane Wolford has got the job done. He's just got over the line in his match. Conrad Jusicin as well. They've both won in the last few moments.
Okay, he's going to go after this too. I think he cannons into the 9. May have to draw this a bit, but I think it's okay. I think he's called the referee to remove the rack, maybe.
Yeah, Marcel Eckhart from Berlin coming over to take care of that. Looking after 2 tables simultaneously. That won't be the situation when we get down to the later stages. And you can see there he's using that marking device there because it was too difficult to just remove the 9 ball directly. So all done with Marcel's trademark precision. Nathwani can return his focus to a really big shot this. He's got so much momentum. Doesn't want to surrender any of it.
I think he's supposed to go for this in the lower right. He's got to draw the cue ball, trying to contact the 9, maybe fully, maybe a hair on the top side of it. That way he goes towards the 3. Probably a touch of spin as well. Oh, he did catch the top of it. He's not going to hold the cue ball for an easy shot on the 3, and now a big decision. Do you go for the bank? You can run the cue ball a few rails, 3 rails, maybe back for the 5. This is where you'd like to get the snooker, but if you play the safety, I think you have to think about your opponent and what's going on with the score line, the pressure that's mounting for Ruiz, and just probably put the 3 on the top rail and the cue ball on the bottom rail. If you try to run safe, you may give up a shot. And he's going to lose the 3 ball a little bit here, so a bit of a mistake.
On the other feature table, Terence Gulliver of Canada was 2-0 down against India's Natasha Cheethan. Got it back to 2-1, and then Cheethan played a poor length of the table safety on the 9 ball to let Gulliver in for 2 apiece in that one.
If this 3 doesn't pass the 6, this has gotten funny here. I think it does. Easy to hit this a touch thick into that 6 ball, though. Yeah, really not much of an easy safety offered, so he does have to attack. We'll see how much left spin he wants to put on this. Looks like really none, so watch outside pocket. Oh, he's kind of fluked that one. I'm not sure he's going to love the results either.
Yeah, you could see he was just starting to get excited. It was almost as if his body language was saying that he felt, okay, maybe this is my chance to start turning this around, and then just looked on in horror as the cue ball came to rest via that nudge in behind the 8.
Yeah, and the 3 always did go off the 8, but from that distance you wouldn't aim that thin trying to play that. So I think a bit of luck pocketing the 3, but quite the opposite here with position on the 5.
Sort of luck you can do without, isn't it? If that 3 stays on the table and the cue ball ends up in that position, he's put Nathwani in trouble. Instead of which, he knows if he gets this wrong, that could easily be 7-0.
Yeah, he's got to kind of slow spin this to even get at the 5, I think. I don't really see any other shot besides a big masse of some sort coming to the bottom cushion. Now this does, the slow swerve here with spin going into the rail, does offer maybe chipping the 5 in the side. And this 2-rail kick is a much better way to put speed on the kick shot, but very hard to judge. Loses this game, he may not shoot again. The way that Nathwani is breaking the balls. Nathwani left the table on a safety, not a miss. This couldn't have ended up in a much worse place, Michael. Okay, fancy him to hit it. We'll see what happens. And he's almost made it.
Almost made it. He's left it. It's a real tester, though.
And we'll see if he even plays for this. He may put the cue ball behind the 9 here, kind of banking the 5 ball up on the opposite side rail. Figure him to get shape. Even if he does run into the 9, he'll have a long cut shot on the 6. Now he's sizing up where the cue ball is going. He can't worry about that too much. This is about simplifying the make here on the 5. Straight high ball, I think.
This has the feeling of being a very big rack now. You feel if Nathwani does come through all this to win it, really should see it out from there. If Sanchez Ruiz can just get a foothold, that could be the start of something. So big moments here.
Well, talk about confident. This is going to be very unlucky. Very unlucky. Wow. Didn't deserve that.
No, just got a little nudge there, sending it towards the pocket. Showed a lot of character to make this. And then just catches the 9. And from there trundles towards the pocket. Surely now, Sanchez Ruiz, very belatedly, is going to get his first rack on the board.
Yeah, hasn't broke the ball since winning the lag. Nearly froze it on the lag. And that first game, the 4 or 5 exchanges with the cluster of balls on the side rail didn't work out for Ruiz, and hadn't put one on his side since.
So we've been playing for about 3/4 of an hour, and finally Sanchez Ruiz looks as though he's going to open his account. He wouldn't have taken it for granted given some of the balls we've seen him miss in this match, but he has at last given himself something to build on. Nathwani still with a big lead, but it's now 6-1. Just on the other table, the other feature table that is, Natasha Cheetham with a chance to regain the lead at 3-2 against Terence Gulliver, but she's missed the 6. She was 2-0 in front in that one. Rico Deeks leads Graham Hamilton 3-1. Alan Brown has a 4-1 lead over Adam Humphreys. So was that a temporary blip or the start of a big recovery?
He's pretty good break off here. The one got kissed around a little bit. I'm not sure it passes the 5. Cue ball got kicked around a little bit as well. Or excuse me, that's the, yeah, that's the 4 ball. I think he's got to play a safety here. Just kind of follows through this, knocking the 1 by the 8. Cue ball straight forward behind the 4. Probably left a bit more of a kick shot than he wanted. So Nathwani should hit this 1 ball.
Niels Johanning of Germany has finally seen off James Jack of Scotland. He was 7-0 up. Jack battled his way back into some sort of contention, but Johanning has got across the line at 9-4.
Watch out for the scratch by the 6. Yeah, I caught a little piece of the 6, so helped him out there. It's going to leave a long, very makeable shot for Ruiz, though. Pretty easy position on the 2. Just going forward with the cue ball.
A couple of British players who, among the general public, would be regarded as lesser known, facing the prospect of whitewashes. Alec Cameron trailing 6-0 against Sandra Kont of Estonia. And Andrew Morris 8-0 down against the Dutchman, Tim Jonkman.
And Ruiz is still a little out off. You can see that 1 hit the pocket a little crudely, and he's got to make a bit more of a shot on the 2. Pretty natural position getting on the 3, though. Should get by the 9.
Been around some time now. Won the European 9-ball title as long ago as 2016, beating Joshua Filler in the final, who almost won the 8-ball as well. We've talked about his good record in Euro Tour events, particularly last year.
And he's got to kind of cheat this a little bit if he's going to go forward. Can't afford to hit the point. So he's going to just size up shooting the 4 from about where the 3's at now. And it's smart. I mean, you don't want to take a chance catching the point and then end up behind the 5, even though if he does catch the point, he probably comes out for position on the 4 anyways. Still something you don't really know if it's going to happen or not. So I think he just pinches this back. I mean, the 4's in a pretty easy play from the vicinity of the 3 ball. Can't do much here, doesn't appear.
Well, starting to play now. It's something more like the pace we're accustomed to seeing from him. And just looks to be feeling so much better. The relief of having got a rack on the board. He's followed it up with a fairly fluent one here. And maybe that 7th rack is going to turn out to be a big turning point after all. 2 in a row now for Sanchez Ruiz. He closes to 6-2.
Yeah, taking advantage of that unlucky scratch from Nathwani in rack number 7. What a big shot the man came with to get that little ticky off the 9 and go right up the rail. But even when you're the favorite, you may need a few rolls here and there.
Yeah, something like that always reminds you that, well, just because something looks like being a turning point doesn't mean it's going to be. Got to take advantage of it. And so far, Sanchez Ruiz has just got a little bit of momentum behind him now. Got to keep building it.
He's hitting them a bit harder, so you won't see the one near the pocket as much. It'll probably go a bit longer if it doesn't catch that side. And again, the 4's in the way of pocketing the 1. Can't quite play the kiss shot on the 4 either, I don't think, anyways. And maybe he has a pocket on the 1.
Might get a better idea from this angle. Well, still hard to tell.
Nice solid stroke there.
And all of a sudden, you might just say, if he was to win this rack, perhaps he goes slight favourite again. Yes, he'd still be 6-3 down, but having won 3 in a row and given all his experience.
Touchy little rack here, though, Michael.
Yeah, sure. Work to be done.
Yeah, he's got to get proper on the 5 to get over for the 6. The 8's kind of roaming around in the picture, so.
Tim Jonkman of the Netherlands has completed the whitewash of Andrew Morris, 9-0.
Maybe one round bump the 8 here. Ooh, did he get enough of it, though? What a huge mistake. And he'll do that sometimes. I don't know if you noticed, just kind of got down and one-stroked it where it is an easy shot, but I mean, that's where you make your mistakes, kind of taking something for granted.
Well, we were talking about Shane Van Boening during his match earlier when he was absolutely cruising, but still taking full care over every single shot. You're absolutely right. Sanchez Ruiz sometimes in any situation can almost take shots for granted a little. It's not something you would do intentionally, but just a bad habit you can fall into.
Oh, look at that shot. Rail first, backwards spin off the rail. He's going to have a tough one on the 6, but that was some kind of sweet. If you didn't pay attention, you wouldn't even notice he kicked at that ball with a little draw spin.
Well, 2 good recovery shots in a row. And it should now be 3 racks in a row. It doesn't feel like this has taken very long. Steadily improving with every rack now. And Sanchez Ruiz, in very little time, has halved his deficit. Nathwani now leading 6-3. Terence Gulliver level at 3-all now with Natasha Chithan, who's at the table in the next rack. Daniel Corrieri going well, 7-2 lead over Filip Krawczyk of Poland. And a close finish in store in the All-British clash. John Ballard against Rich Fulwell, 7-all on table 10. We were talking about Canadian players earlier. Another one going well is Ben Crawley with a 5-2 lead over Ivalo Simeonov.
All right, that's the 1 ball nearing that corner, and it went in, so it's going to make things a little more difficult. Does have a shot on the 2 and one you figure Ruiz to make, but I wouldn't say a hanger. I'd like to just simplify this shot with a high ball coming across, but he's got a gamble going into the 3 or the 4 or the 6. That's what I would look at, trying to come 2 rails for the 3 up top. So maybe needs a touch of right English here with it. That's a little light, I think. He's going to have a shot in the upper left. I don't know if he has the upper right. I don't think so.
And this is why Sanchez Ruiz can be a very irritating opponent to have charging back at you, because he can pile up the racks very, very quickly. We're seeing now everything that we didn't see from him early in the match. The confidence, the fluency, the speed around the table. And Nathwani put in so much work over a period of about 40 minutes to 3/4 of an hour to build that 6-0 lead. Now he's seen it evaporating before his eyes in what must feel like no time at all.
Yeah, Nathwani, though, has just got to maintain, wait for his opportunity, if it comes. Figure him to get something here in the next few racks.
Well, that's the thing. It was just a stroke of misfortune, really, from him that let Sanchez Ruiz back into the match. Since then, the man from Spain has been really controlling things. A couple of breaking runs in a row now. He's back to 6-4 down. Daniel Corriere on the hill now, 8-2 against Filip Krawczyk, one of the ever-growing Polish contingent. Robert Braga building a nice 5-1 lead over George Edwards. And Pedro Botta of the United States, just a couple of racks away from victory with a 7-3 lead over the home player, Leo Boscher. So what do you think, Jeremy? FSR favourite now, even at 6-4 down?
Yeah, you'd probably make him a favorite. I mean, 6-5 down against top player. If he's breaking, he's probably the favorite, the way the balls are breaking. So you'd have to put him a little favorite from here. But like we talked about, Nathwani, if he just seems pretty calm still, so just waiting for his opportunity. If he gets it, I think he's going to do what's needed. It's just a matter if he gets that chance. This is sitting pretty. I think he can afford to play this in the corner and a bit of a two-way shot with position on the two. This is normally a shot that Ruiz buries really good coming off that back rail. Really nice shot. A little heavy here to get easy position on the three. Big follow stroke. Well, he's getting going, isn't he, Michael?
Well, where was this player early on in the match? I mean, you think he really should have been 2-0 up. He had so many chances. He had enough chances to win about 5 or 6 racks in those first couple. He just looked all over the place, anxious, lacking in belief, under pressure. But just one moment, the unfortunate scratch from Nathwani has turned the whole contest on its head. So for the 3rd rack in a row, it's a run out from the break. Now the man from Spain is only one behind at 6-5. Christian Phillips, one of the British contingent, leading 7-5 against Jani Sikkanen of Finland. Rico Deeks, who we were talking about earlier today, base not too far from here now, the Dutchman. 6-1 lead over Graham Hamilton.
I didn't get a chance to see, did Petri Mäkinen, did he advance? I thought he was in a little bit of a tight one early in that match.
I'll have a look for that one. So hard to keep on top of every match, isn't it? So many going on today. I think 160 matches scheduled for today.
Yeah, 128 obviously in the first round to complete the first full round. He did play quite a bit earlier. Such a solid player.
Well, it feels like we've watched two different matches in one here. The first 6 racks when Nathwani was just growing and growing in strength and looked like he really fancied the job. And then really everything that's followed. And unbelievably, Sanchez Ruiz is 1 rack away from leveling. And now it's Nathwani's turn to leave the arena, take a little bit of a break. Maybe trying to stop Sanchez Ruiz's rhythm. That's the trophy they're playing for, a brand new trophy, of course, for a brand new event, the UK Open. And it's sitting out in that space that's there in the middle of the arena. Well, that's where the main table will be when we get down to the single elimination stage at the weekend, just the last 16.
Yeah, and given the opportunity, we kind of figured even at 6-0 for Ruiz to make a run at this match, and he's certainly done that.
Yeah, Petri Mäkinen, who you were talking about there, it was against Liam Waterworth earlier, won by 9 racks to 5. So he'll play John McAllister now of Great Britain in the next round.
Yeah, prior to pandemic, Petri was really starting to make some noise, playing a lot of quality matches, a lot of quality finishes, not only in Europe, but in America as well. Really solid. I love watching him play. Now Nathwani back in the arena, back at the table, and Ruiz to break, trailing 6-5. Usually doesn't back off much, but playing a bit more of a not controlled, but a bit more of a firm cut break, you might say. And here now with the grouping on the side rail that can be managed with the 4 over the side and the 7-5, a little tangled up situation here on the 2-ball. Does it go cross corner? I think it does. Certainly doesn't cut in. The 3 in the way. This is a funny little situation here. I don't know if he can go thin enough on the 2 to get behind the 9. I don't think so. And the cross corner bank is a difficult one on the slick table. I don't think there's an easy safety here, Michael. I don't think he's going to push out, but you never know. I mean, you would think a little bit of an open look, pretty close to the 2-ball, he'd figure out something he likes, but if it's any kind of threatening, he'll push out first, and that's exactly what he's called. I'm not sure he's going to get it back. It looks to me like maybe the cross corner bank, maybe bank the 2 around, trying to stick him behind the 3. You know, after sitting for what looked like 5 racks, something like that, 4 racks from the break, right? Or something, maybe it was 3 racks from the break.
3 in a row from the break, yeah.
You kind of want to take this on, I think. Be hard for me to pass it anyways.
Well, this may be the moment he's been waiting for while he was sitting down. It was all slipping away from him. He must have just been thinking, just give me a chance to turn this back round in my favor.
Yeah, well, he can cue the ball. So banging the 2 around. Watch out for the upper right corner. He may make this trying to play a safety. He could cross the 2 over trying to run the cue ball safe. You know, how sweet a hit. He doesn't want that to go. He's hit it too pure. Wow. And now he has the 3 in the side, the 4 there to break out the 7-5. But what a clean hit. So, I mean, he's still in a good way after not spending much time at the table the last 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, well, that was it. It's not like he was collapsing under the weight of what he might be about to achieve. It's just a case that he was unlucky to scratch after a flick off the 9 and spent a lot of time in his chair, as you say. So he's got to remind himself how well he played to put himself into that astonishing 6-0 lead earlier in the match.
Yeah, now how do you play this? You would like to go into the rail with a little left English. That way kicking the 7 away with a mild speed, but Otherwise, he may gamble trying to push the 7 into the 5. Wouldn't it be one you want to hit? Yeah, that was a funny way to play it. Caught it way too heavy. And you see how the cue ball continued to carry. A lot of times when you're playing that, you all want to play opposite spin there. That way the cue ball usually will get away from the 7. If he can't go by the 7, which I don't think he can, this is very difficult. It's the type of shot, when it's tight, you can sometimes hit it hard and kind of compress the rail a little bit to get by a ball like this. He's going to need some help. He's not going to get it.
Having worked so hard to build that 6-rack gap, a massive cushion that he had, in a few minutes' time, the lead could have disappeared entirely.
And it's just a little experience on how to play that situation on the side rail with the 4, 5, and 7.
So it's only taken about 20, maybe 25 minutes for Francisco Sanchez Ruiz to do this. He was 6-0 down. He's now made it all the way back to level terms at 6 apiece. Well, I guess from Nathwani's point of view now, Jeremy, what he's just got to tell himself is that if someone had offered him the chance to effectively be playing a race to 3 for the chance to beat Sanchez Ruiz and get through to the next round, he'd probably have taken that.
Absolutely. He'd like to re-lag from here. That's about it. But again, maybe a little bit of a mental error, but really super impressed the way he stuck the cue ball when he did fluke the 2 ball in 3 rails. And so he's still cueing nicely. I think he made a good decision taking the shot on as well. Just got to wait to see what kind of opportunity, if an opportunity does arrive.
Lost the first 6, won the next 6. Sanchez Ruiz breaks in rack 13.
Okay, and he's going to love this. He's got a little angle. He can come out for the 3 in the side. That really offers easy position on the 4, and Ruiz is going to take his first lead. Easy prediction, but I think it's going to happen. Oh, he held for the corner. Didn't have much angle on that 2 ball. Now here you just want to draw this back some to lessen the angle on the 4. May have gotten a little awkward here. Anytime the ball starts to get away from the side rails, very difficult to stun over with the small angle. So a lot of guys may draw back here. Looks like he's going to stun it. And he got a lot out of that cue ball there. Some more Francisco that we're used to seeing.
Striking the cue ball with so much authority and confidence now.
Shouldn't come back too far, just draws this by the side pocket. No reason to come all the way back.
And if he does get through, he's no more dangerous player in any tournament than someone who goes into the next round feeling like a reprieved man. He was facing humiliation earlier. Beaten earlier today. Over to the 1-loss side. 6-0 down. Looking like being one of the first players to exit the UK Open altogether. But now, for the very first time, he leads at 7-6. And all of a sudden, he just needs 2 more racks to advance. Sander Kont of Estonia just needs 1 more. He's on the hill against Alec Cameron. 8-3 in that one. Robert Braga of Romania going so well. 7-2, he leads George Edwards. Rico Deeks flying now, 7-1 up on Scotland's Graham Hamilton. Ben Crawley of Canada, 7-3. He leads Vailo Simeonov. And a hill finish on table 10 in the All-British clash. John Ballard against Rich Fulwell. It's going to be a decent British contingent progressing into tomorrow's play. Will Francisco Sanchez Ruiz be there for Spain? It's looking a lot better for them now. But how is this one finished?
He's dead snookered here, so we'll see what type of push out. I don't think the jump shot, it seems like the 5's a bit of ways away from the 1 to take on the jump shot. And I'll tell you, I don't think he's going to get this back if he rolls out in that position. Looks like a pretty easy safety for Nathwani, and I think Ruiz has got to rethink this a little bit, especially after seeing a pretty successful shot by Nathwani in the last push out, and it was very difficult. So if it's an easy decision for the man from India, I think he'll definitely take it on, and I think he'll execute as well. Okay, trying to get on the side rail with the cue ball. So as he just pushed the 1 over, trying to use the 7 and 5 as a snooker, just kind of float the cue ball over behind the brown 7, and the 1 comes across the table near the cue ball maybe. Looks pretty simple to me. Just don't underhit it. That's the main thing. Oh, he went the other way. Doesn't want to give up much of a look here. And that's exactly what he's done. So we'll see how Ruiz wants to play this. I think the cue ball will be directing towards the 3. Put the 1 up underneath the 7, something like that. Looks like a pretty easy, not easy shot, but it's a shot you get a good feel for. So I expect him to execute this. Oh, too much spin. He's going to go way wide of his mark here. May get the 1 in a good position, but added a lot more side spin than I thought he would there. And he's given up a little bit of a look at the 1. Yeah, it looks like he's going to play a jump shot that, wow, he's going for the make here. I thought he may bank it cross corner and try and drag the cue ball down behind the 8 or something like that. This could go off the table. Don't think so, but all right, definitely a tester. And he's got to work the cue ball across near the 7. It is natural though. I think good thing for him, and with a good stroke position, is pretty doable. Just got to commit. Oh, he's hit it sweet. Watch out, 7 ball. I was worried about that. So I was saying he maybe needs to push through the ball a little more oomph. Now he's going to size up the jump. And I will tell you, he overcut the 1 a little bit, and that cost him a little bit on the line of the cue ball. It's not something you're going to say he hit it bad, but it's just a matter of fact is all. Just wants to stop the cue ball. I really don't think it's the cueing with the 6. He doesn't look that comfortable with the, you know, the short jump, meaning he has to get it up quick over a ball very close.
John Ballard has won that All-British Clash with Rich Fulwell, 9-8. It's just finished a few moments ago.
I'll tell you what, showing some seasoning here. Sometimes, you know, when you're not, you know, so good at a certain type of shot, you have to really remember that and understand your chances may be better kicking to this top rail, trying to create a little luck. Sometimes you have no option, but there are options here. He's kept Ruiz off the offensive shot, or at least the obvious one. Little elevated over the 4. It's hard to say. Does he just double bank this, kind of holding the ball, trying to use the 5, putting the 3 on the end rail? If he tries to move the cue ball backwards, he could lose control. So this is funny. I'm not sure what he's looking at now. May go for the cross corner, trying to get behind the 4. And it's going to slide a bit. Cue ball in a pretty good position, but I think he did leave a little bit of a piece on the 3.
Just reached an hour and a half in this match. It's about twice as long as the entirety of some of the matches we saw on this main table earlier in the day. A number of runaways. This one looked like it might be another. Not in the direction we were expecting. Nathwani, if you weren't with us earlier, I can tell you was 6-0 up.
A little bit of luck there with the 3 tying up on the 8. Combination is, you know, technically makeable, but from this distance, having to cut the 3 that much looks pretty scary to me. I think that's why we're up here in the booth. Everything looks scary from up here. What do? Do you cross the 3 over? He's sizing up the combination, and the 3 and the cue ball are going to have a lot of speed on it.
So many players on the hill at the moment. Sandra Kont of Estonia is one of them, 8-4 up against Alec Cameron. We've got about 3 or 4 other players also on the brink of winning their matches. Robert Braga leads George Edwards 8-2. Alan Brown 8-3 up against Adam Humphreys. Danny King and Rico Deeks are also both on the hill in their matches, so could be a lot of results coming in over the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh, he's going to love that shot. And very nice control, and he really wanted to make sure the 3 ended up on the bottom rail. I'll tell you, if he can't get between the 5 and the 4 with the cue ball here, the way this is settled, this has become a difficult hit. You can see it on the face of Nathwani. Go to the right side rail, the 9's in the way, the 7's in the way, the natural path on the left side rail. This has fallen very, very difficult. Whew. And I'm with Nathwani. He's kind of sat back, put his cue between his arms, and has to think this one over. And I kind of have to do the same myself. He's going to have to play a kick shot you normally wouldn't kick, or normally wouldn't use, excuse me.
And the amount of time he's taking here only underlines how well aware he is of the significance of this.
I mean, would you maybe tie the 7 and 6 up? He could just clip the 7, drop it on top of the 6, try and make Ruiz's life a little difficult here with a 1-game lead at 7-6. This is touchy, though. It's not as easy as you think to get the speed right. That may be a little heavy. 6-7's playable. We'll see. Don't think the 6 is playable on the side, but from where he was, I think that was the best percentage, really.
Well, you could tell from how long he was studying it. He was short on attractive options.
Yeah, it was a fairly open cue ball. I mean, what I mean, but not wedged up on another ball. A fairly open 3 ball, but sometimes the obstacles, meaning the other object balls, just get in the way of all paths, and I think that was the case. You hate to surrender ball in hand, but does he come out for the corner here, that same corner, or does he just lay it for the side? Okay. Going away from his work a little bit. I think he'll want to get on that 6-7 combination here in a couple shots, and he's going to require an angle on the 5 to do it easily. That maybe overran a little bit, so now he may go into those balls lightly. Here you don't want to go into them with a ton of speed. Medium-ish at the most. And just like that. Oh, wow, he double kissed the 7. Didn't hit the 6 at all. It's amazing what the double kiss does. Looks like you have to hit the 6, hitting a little bit the left side of the 7, but not the case here. Is he hitting rail first here on the 6 and just trying to clip it, let it nestle up next to the 7 and keep Nathwani off the offensive shot? Touchy business here. You better watch it. He could get a kiss on the cue ball with the 6 here. Should beat the kiss, but he beat it easy. I guess he's looking at maybe playing the 6 down, banking it down by the 9. That's dangerous. Could kick behind this ball. I think that's a bit more of a play, but watch out. If he banks this down by the 9, could give up an early winner. Oh, he banked it pretty clear of the 9, and really good speed, considering it was always going to be an open cue ball.
We've got details of the order of play on the 2 main tables for tomorrow. We'll bring you news of that in just a moment. Some big business to be resolved in this rack.
Trying to go behind the 8. Now, if you're comfortable, you'd still like to kick to the top rail. You realize the 7's really not involved if you hit it correctly, and that's a bit better way to not only pocket the 6 possibly, but possibly get safe as well. Kicking this way, the cue ball and the 6 are going to kind of go up table together. And we've seen a few of these misjudged. Wouldn't be the soft kick, would it? Oh, this is a big mistake. And this is just experience. It may get away with it, but percentages, man, what a shot. But percentages say that's a tough task.
Yeah, really walking the tightrope with that one.
Yeah, a lot of times the players don't judge it correctly and they come underneath the 6 and don't get a rail and surrender ball in hand. But it's worked out now for Nathwani. Yeah, he's going to have to cut the 6, I think, into the 7 maybe and bring the cue ball back with a little draw. Trying to get behind the 9. Maybe a couple rails. This is a difficult situation. That's what I would like to do. I think cut the 6 on the 7. Just draw the cue ball back a couple rails and try and leave a long shot if you don't get the snooker. One thing, Nathwani's been pretty impressive overall with his opportunities. So is he trying to come up on the 7 ball here? This is tough. I don't think it's laying right. What you do here on this shot is what he's looking at, I think, is you push the 6 forward and you kind of float the cue ball up on the back of the brown 7. It just doesn't look like it's laying right to me, though. Yeah, you see him trying to go forward on the, he kind of just forced it a little.
Yeah, and it couldn't really have gone much worse. So, okay, bit of work to do here, but Nathwani will be grateful for this opportunity. He's lost 7 racks in a row.
And very surprised that Sanchez really never saw that shot I was talking about. He's usually a guy that sees most of the shots. Okay, a little bit of a tester down the rail with the 7. Nice natural little angle to get out for the 8, though. And remember, you don't have to get out much. It's not like you want to get straight in on the 8. You want a little angle anyways. Solid.
Feels like a long time since he won a rack. In the context of the match, it has been a long time. His 3rd break and run in 4 racks, clinched a 6-0 lead. Since then, everything has gone against him. And having fallen behind for the first time in the match at 7-6, Ashik Nathawani has shown a lot of character to draw level. It's 7-all. They both need 2 more racks. That's turning into the match of the day so far, Jeremy.
Absolutely, and you know, he's played great, and I'd say he's broke even better, so we'll see what happens here in game number 15, but he's putting that one over that upper left-hand quarter quite a bit, and he's run some racks behind it.
And just while we wait for the next rack to start, I can tell you about Table 1 play tomorrow. Play starts on the outside tables at 9 AM UK time, but on the 2 feature tables it will be an hour later. Loho Sum, World Masters finalist, plays Mickey Krause first up on Table 1. Then Dennis Arcolio against Chris Seville. Elliot Sanderson will provide an interesting challenge for the snooker star Martin Gould. Pia Filler next on then against Chris Reinhold, member of your Moscone Cup team, Jeremy. Then Eklund Kachi against Daniel Massiol, and Jason Shaw will be last on to play Stephen Folan.
Well, he's made the 1 up in that upper left-hand corner, straight in on the 2, the 3 over the side. He should get to the hill first here, Michael. Really, this first shot.
Yeah, and just to wrap up what we were saying about tomorrow, Naoki Oi will be first up on Table 2 against Marius Skonechny. Imran Majid plays Jeff Beckley. Then Oliver Shalnocki against Fraser Patrick, followed by Gary Wilson, former World Snooker Championship semi-finalist, playing Chris Alexander. Mika Immonen fell victim to that wonderful SVB comeback at the World Championship. Plays Adam Smith. And then speaking of Shane Van Boening, he'll be last on table 2. Big day for Scotland's Matthew Wrigley, who will provide the opposition for him. That's all to come tomorrow. Still to be resolved today is this intriguing match.
Well, speed was perfect there. He didn't. A lot of guys would have taken that and just stopped the ball and worked the 3 in the side some kind of way, but he went forward and fell on the perfect angle on the 3 to make things very easy to get on the 4. And well, you can see from there the 6, 7, 8, and 9.
News of another hill finish. That's on table 16. Ioannis Charlaftis of Greece against Portugal's Ivan Coelho. That's 8-all. On the other featured table, Terence Gulliver of Canada was struggling early on against Natasha Cheethan of India. He's really turned it round. He's on the hill at 8-3.
And has just won that match, 9-3. Don't know that man from Canada. Know a lot of the players, but pool's growing there all the time as well. It's big anyways, but. All right, he's gotten a little flat here. So I have to put a little steam into this one, pounding this off the right side rail and back out somewhat for a cut shot on the 8. Oh, he's going a high ball, it looks like. Wow. He's going, no, that's an incorrect play there. I think he's got to rethink this, and it's more of a center ball stun. I think he's gone back to that now. Yeah, it's a good decision, rethinking that one. I not only think it was more missable ball with the high inside, but I think the 9 was in the way of the path for gaining shape.
And what character he's shown, everything in terms of momentum had shifted completely away from him. He had fallen behind, but he's turned it round, and having levelled, a break and run here means that your call was right, JJ. Ashik Nathwani is first to the hill. He leads 8-7, and the dream of a famous win over one of the best players around is still very much on.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, India, snooker, so you figure the guys to pot the ball well, but I'll tell you, he's played a lot of nifty shots. He's made some really nice decisions with the cue ball, nice decisions on the rollouts. Even kicking at the ball has been pretty good. I mean, he's had to surrender ball in hand once, but didn't cost him the game. But super impressed with this young man.
News of another winner, Alan Brown. He's just seen off Adam Humphries in an all-British clash, 9-5. And another British player through is Lou Callahan. He's defeated Kevin Lanoy of Belgium by 9 racks to 2. So what a moment for Ashik Nathwani, a chance to pull off a really famous win here, a win that looked to be slipping away from him, but is now right back within his grasp. He leads 8-7. It's his last break of the match.
Yeah, it hasn't changed at all. The 1's coming long. What's the 6 gonna do? I think he's got an open shot. May have to float this a bit though to hold for the 3. Well, the 9 really threatened that side pocket as well. I was really keeping an eye on the 1 ball and the cue ball, but this is the type of shot you can actually let slip away when nerves are high, and you have to hit it so easy to hold for the 3. And I don't really see him being able to go with a forceful stroke, going multiple rails to get on the 3. He did that earlier. I don't think it really lays there this time. He tried it. I don't know if it's going to get there, Michael. This could be problems, and I think just not wanting to hit the light stroke cost him the cue ball there. And that was just too full to track it back and forth.
Well, it's been a match of turning points, hasn't it? All starting with that unfortunate scratch that he had in rack 7. And this could be the most significant one of all. He's in all sorts of bother now.
Yeah, he can kick across the table. If he comes across the top of it, he could scratch in the side, believe it or not. But now this is one I would kick to the top rail if I could reach it comfortably lefty. Oh, he's going to try and swerve it. Is the 9-ball in play here with the swerve shot? Coming off the rail and towards the 9 maybe? He must not have to elevate the cue much if he's considering this shot, because you would want a little bit of speed on this. You don't want to hit it too light. Oh, you missed the entire ball. That's going to hurt. And players just have to realize on the slick table, just doesn't want to grab the English near as much.
Increasingly, as this match has gone on, it's felt like the one that's going to give us our first hill finish on this main table. And that looks highly likely now. But a lot of pressure here on Sanchez Ruiz. He knows any lapse, and that could be that for him.
Oh, you read my mind, that's for sure. It's the exact word I was thinking was pressure, and you can almost see it a little bit mounting if you know the young man. And he's got to get fairly tidy here on the 5 to make things easy later in the rack. So if he falls like straight here where he's drawn kind of on top of the 6, this could get a bit hairy. Good thing for Ruiz, later in the rack, you may end up playing short side on the 8 just from getting out of line, and it does go up in the corner. You figure him to play it in the short corner, but this is what I was talking about. It's not bad, but he's got to play a touchy shot that makes this ball missable. Kind of floated a bit with a touch of right spin. He wasn't sure when he first released it, Michael.
Yeah, just that moment of hesitancy. And he's taken these well. And it looks as though he's going to get the job done here. And of course, if he does, he will have the break in the deciding rack.
Coming across the table, so he's going to be stretched a little. He can reach it easily. I didn't think he was going to get that much bounce, but he got quite a bit of bounce there off the second rail. This is, you know, kind of decisions. If you want to go straight back and forth for the 9 up in the corner, if you want to pull the ball a little bit more for the 9 on the side. Both very playable. On the pool room table, he just flicks this in with a little English, but on the slick table, not so easy to come backwards, right? So he may just play the 9 upwards. Is this going to get on the 50? Is this going to get easily cuttable? It is. Probably has to cue this with a touch of right English to make sure nothing bad happens with the cue ball.
So a day dominated by one-sided matches, runaways and whitewashes on the main table is going to finish with the exact opposite to all of that. It's been quite a contest between Francisco Sanchez Ruiz and Ashik Nathawani, and it's going the full distance. And you have to say, it is significant, Jeremy. Certainly in the part of the match where he's been playing well, Sanchez Ruiz has been breaking very well.
Yeah, he always breaks well, and I rarely see him really back off. And he's somewhat like Shane as far as really unloads on the rack usually. But this match here, I think he's followed, you know, Nathwani, that not putting as much into it really, trying to put the 1 over the upper left-hand corner, both breaking from the same position. But it's rare we see a break and run when it's hill, Michael. It just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looks like that we've lost Ruiz maybe on a short timeout.
Yeah, he just slipped out of the arena for a moment, gone to the bathroom. Chance to compose himself, I guess. So normally coming towards the end of a day like this, Jeremy, I'll be asking you what was your standout moment, but I guess this match really has been the standout moment. Most of the others, it's just been very strong performances from individual players, but not much to remember in terms of the contests themselves.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, not only the score in this match, but Nathwani's play. I mean, that's probably the standout to me on the entire day. Of course, he got a couple little gifts early, but he made a few little mistakes early that put Ruiz in position, and then he regrouped really nicely. And very impressed. I'm not sure who he played in his first match for his first loss, that being Nathwani, but
yeah, Nathwani beaten 9-3 by Giuseppe Iacobucci earlier today. Sanchez Ruiz, as we've said, was beaten by Jason Theron of South Africa. He'll be playing for them in the World Cup in Brentwood in a few weeks' time.
And Michael's always got all the information. So we'll see if what he decides to do on the break. Does he play the firm cut? That's what he's kind of played. You know, he's not going over the top firm, but a nice handshake between the two guys. And they both know somebody's not going to get to play any more pool in the UK Open after this rack's completed.
Yep, it's our last rack on today's coverage. That's one of the most significant racks of the day. This to decide who stays in and who goes home.
All right, stuck with the mild cut break, somewhat mild.
Any players waiting to play this evening, please report to the tournament desk and you will be allocated a table. Thank you.
Okay, so we talked about it. There is an offensive shot on a cross side bank, but does he take that on in this spot here? If the two, I'll tell you, if the two goes in the side by the 5 and 7, I may play the bank here and bring the cue ball into that position somewhat where it's at now, a little bit better than that. You don't figure him to. You figure him to play the safety. But I'll tell you, there's some gaps out there, and he's looking at the cross side bank, I think. Now running the ball with a high English here, which is what I assume if he plays the bank, you figure him to hit it long. Oh, he's actually hit it short. So Nathwani is going to get a look, and is the 1-4 going to dress up and be playable? Looks difficult to me. And you could tell a little nervous, a lot of body movement there during that shot. And I'll tell you, he may have to go at this. This is a little tricky. You could cross the one over, trying to run the cue ball between the 4-9 backup table and land the one on the end rail. Very difficult. I think it's the type of shot you shoot in snooker, and I gotta believe this young man has a snooker background. He went for the make on the 4.
Certainly has the sort of address and cue action of someone who comes from a snooker background. Maybe billiards, of course, that being, as I said, very big in India.
And this has gotten pretty difficult as well. Besides trying to make the one, it definitely has the upper left. I don't know if it has the upper right or not. Is he looking to shave this one ball? What's he looking to do here? Doesn't, this looks, is this going to go into the 6? I got it by the 6. Wow, nice shot there. Very nice, Ruiz. 2-rail escape by the 8 is doable. He can go 2 rails by the 5 as well. He could go 1 rail by the 5 if he wanted to really arc the cue ball. And Ruiz is very happy that shot's over with. That could have gotten away from him a couple different ways.
Well, you did say you didn't fancy it was going to be the sort of rack that someone would run out from the break. And already it's absolutely dripping with tension. Both put so much into it. Would you believe we've now been playing for more than 2 hours in this match?
And he's going to look at the 2 rail escape coming to the long left side rail to the bottom rail and up. Got to put some speed on that though. The 1's some distance away from the bottom cushion. The 9 and the 4 are there. He doesn't want to hit the 1 and not get a rail. That happens sometimes. You forget to hit the ball. Oh, he's got to aim a little deeper, I think. This may just hit the 4. Yeah, he just adjusted a little bit. Yeah, may have to dig on this a little bit. High ball. I think he maybe misses this. Yeah, he's got to hit downward on it, I think, a little bit, Michael. Almost like a draw, not a draw stroke, but create a hair of backspin.
You could see the pain on his face as he stepped up from the shot there.
Yeah, it's not going to get it, and that's just experience on that table.
I think
that was a bit off no matter what, but definitely the table had something to do with it.
The pain's going to be a lot greater now, and that would be a very anticlimactic way for such a memorable afternoon to end for Ashik Nathawani.
It looks like he can play the 1 in the lower right, go between the 4-9 to the side rail. He'd like to play the 2 in the upper left and go by the 6, coming down for the 5, because getting on, getting on the 4, because getting on the 5 is crucial. Yeah, I would like to play the 2 in the upper left myself. He does have options, but that really makes a natural path to get on the 4, and anytime you're swinging naturally, the speed control is usually much better. This is going to get a little hairy. He's on the wrong side of the 2, and he's not on the wrong side enough to make things easy getting on the 4 to get on the 5.
And perhaps demonstrating that even as the far more experienced and fancied player, he's not immune to the pressure of this situation. Well, that's fine.
Yeah, he recovered nicely. And we should keep, you know, what you would look at, a top 20 player in this event. We can all fancy him different places, but you got to figure one of the 20 that you would think that are favorites to win this tournament.
Certainly would have been the big story of the first day if he had gone out.
Well, he would have made the two big stories, because him losing on the on the winner's side was probably the initial big story.
Well, for sure. And you wouldn't expect a player of his caliber in a double elimination format to go out so early on. It wasn't looking good for him when he was 6-0 down. One moment of good fortune when Nathwani scratched in the next rack, turned the whole thing around. Sanchez Ruiz won 7 in a row. But from 7-6 down, Nathwani responded brilliantly to lead 8-7. Sanchez Ruiz hit back though. He took it to the hill and he's closed it out. A very relieved man from Spain, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, in surely the most memorable match of the tournament so far, wins by 9 racks to 8. So that concludes our coverage today. We've seen some wonderful individual performances, some very comprehensive wins. Seen some well-known snooker players dip their toe. Likes of Gary Wilson, Martin Gould, both got through. Be fascinating to see them tomorrow.